Good morning and welcome to St. Clare's. I'd like to make a start by welcoming you to this session and introducing you to one of our students, Isabel.
Hi, everybody. My name is Isabel. I am from the Bahamas and I'm in my second year of the IB diploma. And it's a bit weird being online, obviously not in person. You don't get to see the beauty of our school. But I just wanted to welcome you guys and I hope you guys learn a lot from this session. So we're going to start off with a talk from our principal, Duncan, and then the meeting is basically going to work in a chronological order. So we'll start off with a talk on how admissions works and the scholarship program, and then we'll move into the academic section, then the pastoral section, which is more the boarding houses, activities, and then that'll move really well into the CAS experiences, which Kevin and one of our students, Tamerlan, will talk to you about, but it's the creativity activity services, the extracurricular activities. And then lastly, we'll move into careers, which is university help, gap years, all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, if you still have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions as well as some of my other students. But first, before I just want to quickly introduce Duncan, who is our really, really great principal, who's just going to introduce the school.
Thank you, Isabel. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I understand we have over 100 families from all over the world joining us today. Welcome to everybody. What we're hoping that you understand is both the character of the school and what the student experience is like. So that's why, as you'll understand, we have students with us throughout this process, talking about their experience. And at any point in the process, if you want to ask any questions, just type your question into the chat box and our team will be answering that as we go along. And if there's any unanswered questions, we'll be able to answer them at the end anyway. So do please feel free to get involved throughout the webinar. One of the things we want to make sure is you really understand the character of the school. So I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the things that I think are really distinctive about St. Clare's and make us very different from most other schools. And we're starting here, as the slide shows, with internationalism. We were founded in 1953. It's a time after the Second World War. And our founder, Anne Rydell, she was an inspirational, visionary person who wanted to bring together students from different nations so that they'd learn from each other, so that develop tolerance, so that we would create a more peaceful and coherent world. We started off with students from Europe, and nowadays we have students from all over the world, 50 different nationalities currently in the IB, and that grows all the time. So what those students are doing is as well as learning their IB program, which is an international curriculum, they're also developing an international understanding. That's why we have all our students taking part in an MUN conference. That's why we have an international leadership program, and our cohort of students are getting to know each other and making friends from all over the world. Before I came to St. Clare's, I didn't really understand the impact of an international environment like this. And it's not just in the classroom. So in the classroom, students are learning a richer curriculum. That's not just in history and global politics, where they're learning about affairs all over the world, but also, even in subjects like maths, you might learn 6 ways of solving a quadratic equation, for example, rather than just one. So that there is a richer day-to-day experience by sharing your class with people from all over the world. But also, and this is something I didn't really realize until I met our alumni, our former students, having such an international environment really raises our students' aspirations, and people can come here from one country, they meet people from all over the world, they realize that the opportunities around the world, and then they go off and they might study in New York, they might study in work in Austria, or go into international environments. Some of our students, admittedly, come from diplomatic families or come from families which are international businesses anyway. And some of them speak multiple languages before they even get here. So they have a really international background as it is. But there's also a lot of students who are really inspired by the internationalism that we offer. As you'll see on the slide, in addition to internationalism, we are really trying to prepare students to take a leading part in the future. So we're interested in developing students' leadership skills. We run a bespoke leadership program so that where people understand not just leadership skills, but how leadership operates in different contexts and carry out leadership projects. But the leadership is also embedded throughout our Global Futures program, which is delivered to all our students, and throughout our CAS program. So you'll learn from Kevin shortly about our CAS program. It's really wide ranging, and we're developing a large range of skills, sort of life skills for students over and beyond what is offered in the curriculum. Student participation. Suzanne, if we can go on to the next slide, and then I'll come back to this one. We have more than 50 different clubs, activities, academic societies. So if you're a student today that's listening, we're not just an academic school. We're not just the IB school. It's not just about an academic curriculum. We want our students to get really involved, not just in our 50+ activities and academic societies and so on, and sports, and helping with community, but also within the life in Oxford. Oxford is very much a city which has been built around young people, and there's so much on offer. Our students talk every week about events that are happening and encourage other people to go to those events. So it's a really rich experience, not just in school, but outside of the school walls. And let's go on to the student experience. I think one of the things that makes St. Clare's particularly different is that we're much more like a university style of learning than a school style of learning. We have very small class sizes. We're very much looking after the students on an individual basis, but we're encouraging our students to be really independent and to be ready for university study, to research beyond what they're studying within the classes, but also to manage their time, to be able to work independently, to study independently, and to be ready for university life. As part of that, we don't have a typical boarding school culture. In fact, everybody is on first name terms with the teachers. There is no uniform. We're trying to create a much more university style of environment to promote students' independence, so that they grow for the future. I think, I guess, sort of perhaps one of the frequent messages we could give to our students is this sense of balance. Not only are you coming here to have a really rich academic experience, a really rich co-curricular experience, but we also want you to be independent and ready for the future, and to have a good social experience. This is an opportunity to meet people from all over the world, to have a really, really fantastic time while you're at school, and to be really happy. And you'll hear from Becky shortly about how we look after people from the pastoral side. And what that means is, we very motivated students who are trying to make the most of all the opportunities here and enjoy a really busy experience. I hope that gives you a good introduction and overall flavour of what St. Clare's looks like. And I'm now going to hand over to Sarah from our admissions team.
Thank you. So I'm Sarah. I work in the admissions office, and I'm just going to take you through our admissions process, which is very straightforward. So the first step is for you to send us your most recent school reports or transcripts for the last 2 academic years to our email address. And then someone from the team will review the reports, and provided we're happy and they're all satisfactory, we will then invite you to have an interview with English and Maths placement tests being taken online before the interview. You can choose to either have your interview online if it's more convenient, or you can come and visit our campus and have a tour of the beautiful campus, and then have an interview afterwards with one of our members of staff. Similarly, we also have a scholarship admissions process, which is initially quite similar to our main process. So the first step is, again, to send us your reports for the last 2 academic years. And if those are all okay, we will invite you to fill a scholarship application form. The deadline for submitting that for September 2026 entry will be the 23rd of January next year. And then we will shortlist students from who apply through that, and shortlisted students will be required to attend an online scholarship day, which will take place on Saturday, the 7th of March. So the scholarship day it runs throughout the whole day. It involves a series of short interviews, a group exercise, and then again, similar to our main admissions process, you'll be required to sit an English and Maths test. We offer several scholarships each year. A couple of those can be full fee, but we also offer several partial scholarships as well. So I'd like to invite one of our students, Elena, to talk about her own experience applying to St. Clare's, what she had to go through when she applied, her thoughts and what it involved for her.
Hello, I'm Elena. I'm Italian. And so basically, I was 100% sure that I wanted to start the IB program, but the problem, of course, was where. Because my two brothers had followed the same path, but in another school, which was the school that I was supposed to go to. But then a friend of ours suggested this school to us, and so we decided to visit it and come to the open day. And when I visited this school, I literally fell in love. Like, I'm not seeing it because I'm in the open day or because I want you to think it in that way, but like it wasn't just the aesthetics of the school, because it was mainly the atmosphere, the environment, the people. And strangely, for who used to go to a traditional, maybe Italian school like I did, even the teachers, like I liked the teachers, and that was crazy for me. And so I decided to continue the process as Sarah explained to you. And I was accepted and I decided to join the school. And in my opinion, this is a very special school because it's run by people that genuinely care about our success, and they encourage us to work well in the academic part, but also, as Duncan mentioned previously, like they help us a lot in our university experience by choosing this type of classes, this type of homework. And we're like, I think it will also help us, like I've always heard from my previous schoolmates that are not here anymore because they graduated. And I think that they also combine it perfectly with our passions and with what we would like to do in our free time, because we have the possibility to do both. And I think it's really nice, honestly.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's David, and I am the academic vice principal at St. Clare's, which means I oversee the academic programs, which are, of course, the IB program, and also our pre-IB program, which I will talk about briefly. So I've worked with the IB program for over 20 years, and I'm not unusual in that. At St. Clare's, we have very, very experienced IB teachers who believe passionately in the IB program. On the slide, you can see our graduating cohort from 2025, and you can also see their results, which are consistently excellent at St. Clare's. We're consistently at least 5 points above the world average overall IB score. We have very high numbers, as you can see there, getting 40 plus, which puts them amongst the highest achieving students worldwide. So we have excellent academic results, but I don't just want to talk about that outcome in terms of the IB program this morning, because there are other outcomes that we're looking at with the IB program, as captured by the IB mission, which you can see on your screen now in front of you. And you'll see that the IB mission aims much higher than just excellent academic results. Yes, we want excellent academic results, but St. Clare's mission, you will have seen on the previous slide when Duncan was talking, is very closely aligned to the IB mission. We also want to send people, young people out into the world who are going to make a positive difference and have a positive impact on the world. And I hope today, when you see our students talking like Elena, who just spoke, you see that they are focused on academics, but they are also focused on that bigger picture, that holistic aspect of the IB program. So the IB program represents itself in these concentric circles. So I'm going to talk you through those circles from the middle to the outside. So at the very heart of it is what's called the IB learner profile. And it's these 10 qualities, attributes that we seek to develop in ourselves and in our students. They're not all easy to develop, and we recognize that these are skills that it takes a lifetime to improve in some of these areas. But the IB students are committed, as the text on the screen says, it's a commitment to try and improve these areas, because we understand these are the areas that are going to help us to learn and to learn throughout our lives, not just for the time we were doing our IB diploma program. Outside of that is a further commitment from students to think about how they approach their learning. So it's not just a matter of learning content, it's about thinking about how actually we can learn effectively. And so there are these 5 broad learning skills that students are asked to think about, and we at St Clare's, we report on these skills as well. So they're very much at the center of what we're doing. And as teachers as well, we have a responsibility to think about what we're doing and how we're teaching and developing our skills as teachers. So we are also very focused on that. And the IB program, the IB diploma as a whole is focused on how we teach and learn, as well as much as it is focused on what we are teaching and learning. Around that, we have what's called the IB core. So these are compulsory elements of the program that all students need to complete in order to pass the IB diploma. And they are very much what makes this a holistic program. So you have the extended essay, which is a university level research project that all students undergo. They begin that in the first year of their IB diploma. And our IB2 students who are on the call with us today have just completed this very recently. They choose the subject they're interested in. They choose a topic within that subject. They create a research question with the help of a supervisor who's a teacher of that subject. And then over time, they complete a 4,000-word academic essay. And it's really one of the highlights, I think, of the program. Many students are incredibly proud of what they achieve with the extended essay. They also do a theory of knowledge course, which is abbreviated to TOK, as you can see there. That's a critical thinking course. It's a taught program by teachers, IB teachers. They do 100 hours of that across the 2 years. And they are assessed in that course through a presentation or an exhibition and an essay that they write as well. And the third compulsory component is CAS, which I'm not going to go into detail now about, because Kevin, who's our head of activities, he will talk further about the CAS program, but that's also a compulsory part of the program. TOK and extended essay, they do contribute towards the overall score that students achieve, which I'll talk about in a moment. CAS does not contribute to the overall score, but it is a compulsory requirement, and there are certain learning objectives students need to meet that requirement. And I've just put a couple of quotations here, one on the left from a university representative. We ask universities frequently, and we're interested in what universities think about IB students. And many of them tell us things similar to what's on the screen there, how much they love the way that IB students are really well prepared for the rigors and the challenges of university level academic life, and through things like the extended essay and theory of knowledge. And the quotation on the right tells you that what we're focused on is lifelong learning, and that the impact of much of what we do may not just be within the 2 years while students are with us, but also beyond that. A subject like theory of knowledge may well be something that students reflect on throughout their life. And then round the core, you have the 6 subject groups, which I will talk through in a moment, and students have to pick 6 subjects, and I'll talk through the structure of that now. So from those 6 subjects, they will choose 3 at what's called higher level and 3 at standard level. Higher level, the students will spend more time on those subjects. So usually those are the subjects students are most interested in, the ones they enjoy the most often, and they're the subjects usually connected to what they might want to go and do at university later. Standard level subjects, they have fewer lessons on those subjects, But in terms of contribution to the overall diploma, all subjects are worth the same. So they're all worth 7 points, a maximum of 7 points. And taken with the core elements, the EE and the TOK, which contribute 3 points. So overall, the IB diploma is scored out of 45 points. That's the highest score a student can achieve. And just a quotation I like because it illustrates why the breadth and the depth of the IB program is so valuable for many students. Many students, like Mariana Mazzucato on the screen, don't know what they want to do at 16, may not have discovered what their strengths are at that age. And keeping that breadth of 6 subjects means that they might, like her, discover that they're actually very good at something after they're 16, and then that may well be then something that puts them on track for their later studies and their later career. So just to talk you through now the 6 subject groups, I'll go through them one at a time. So group 1 is what's called Studies in Language and Literature. These are language courses that are usually the student's first language, or at least the language they are very, very proficient in. So we have in this group, we have English. Many of our students do study English as a first language, and there are 2 options there. There's a pure literature course, or there's a language and literature course. But we also offer literature courses in huge number of other languages. Being in Oxford gives us an advantage that we can often find teachers of languages. If students want to study their mother tongue, we can usually support it. So we have, for example, students studying Portuguese, Polish, Chinese, Lithuanian, amongst many other languages currently. And usually, you know, if a student wants to study their mother tongue and we haven't currently got it, we can often find a teacher to support that. So for example, we didn't have Ukrainian as part of that program until very recently, but we had some students who wanted very much to study Ukrainian as their mother tongue. So we were able to find a teacher, and now we do have, I think 3 or 4 students in each cohort studying Ukrainian. Group 2 is the language acquisition. So all students need to do 2 languages. So many of our students are actually bilingual and do 2 languages from group 1. So they might do English and Russian, for example. But if not, we also have many students doing a second language. So these are courses for people learning the language still. So language B courses, which you can see are for English, Spanish, German, French, Chinese. These are for students who've studied the language before, usually for several years, and it's a continuation course. But we also have some beginners courses, which are called ab initio, and we have those in Chinese, Spanish, and German. So it is possible for a student to start a new language. Group 3, we offer a wide range of subjects here, which is called Individuals and Societies by the IB. It's the humanities subject areas, and you can see there we have a wide selection for students to choose from. And in the sciences as well, we have physics, chemistry, and biology, the traditional sciences, but we also have computer science, which we've just added this year as a new course. And you'll see there the course Environmental Systems and Societies appears in both the humanities and the sciences. So that is an interdisciplinary course that combines elements of geography and biology mainly. It can count either as a group 3 or as a group 4, or it can count as both. So it's a course that offers a little bit of flexibility on the program. So for example, a student could choose to do Environmental Systems and Societies. It can count as their group 3 and their group 4, and it allows some students, for example, to do 2 art subjects if arts is their passion. So it's a course that allows for a little bit more flexibility. All of these courses on the screen are available at higher level and standard level. And then group 5 is mathematics. So all students need to take mathematics. There are 2 courses. One is called Analysis and Approaches, which is more pure maths, and the other is Applications and Interpretations, which is more applied maths, and both are available at higher and standard level. And then group 6 is the arts, and we offer theatre, visual arts, and music. They're very popular, all 3 of these courses. It is not compulsory for a student to do a subject from group 6. We do encourage it because we think with students who do take these subjects really enjoy their experience. but it's not compulsory. So students, instead of an arts subject, can choose another science subject or another humanities subject or another language subject instead. So that gives you the overview of all the subjects that are available. I'm just going to invite one of our students, Malu, who's in her second year of the IB diploma, just to talk through what she chose and why.
Hi everybody, I'm Malu. I'm German American, and as David said, I'm in my second year of the IB diploma. I take standard level ESS, maths, AISL, and German, and then higher level I take psychology, English literature, and history. One of the things I really like about the IB is that it gives you kind of an opportunity to explore various subjects. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be kind of humanities focused, which I think is reflected in my subjects, but I didn't know specifically which one. I found that like over my 2 years of studying history, I really enjoyed it so much so that I've done my extended essay in history, which was a really enriching process. I really enjoyed it. I received a lot of support from my supervisor, which made it a very fun experience, even though it can seem intimidating. Yeah, I don't take any art subjects, which you can see. However, I think that I can kind of fulfill those interests in my classes, for example, with singing or helping out in theatre.
Thank you, Malu. And I know some people on the call might also be interested in our pre-IB program. So I'm just going to talk briefly about that and ask Malu also to say a few words about pre-IB. So the pre-IB course is a one-year program. It's been designed by St Clare's and St Clare's teachers. It's very much focused on developing the skills and qualities students need to go on and succeed at the IB diploma program. Most of our pre-IB students do continue on and complete the full diploma. Some of them don't. Some of them go back to their home countries or go to other programs. But we believe it's an excellent preparation for whatever comes next. Malu was also a pre-IB student, so I might just ask her to say a few words about the pre-IB program as she experienced and how she felt it prepared her for what came next.
Yes, so before starting pre-IB, I'd never really been introduced properly to the IB and how it works. And I think the way in which the pre-IB year is set out, it gives you an opportunity to test different subjects and how they're taught specifically in IB style, which really helped me and really prepared me for the next 2 years. You're also able to meet so many new people. Even if they leave, you have those connections and go on different expeditions to different parts of the UK, which I found really exciting. Yeah.
Thank you, Malu. Okay, I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Becky, who's the Vice Principal Pastoral. We work really closely together. I oversee the academics, but we both understand that for students to succeed academically, they have to be very happy and secure in the school. And that's what Becky's role entails. So I will now pass over to her.
Thank you very much, Dave, and good morning, everybody. It's lovely to meet you all virtually. I hope that we can give a flavour in the next couple of minutes of the pastoral work that we do and the culture that we try to create for our students at St Clare's. So as Dave said, we work together very closely. We view the concept of kind of well-being and confidence at college. That's necessary to achieve academically. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, so let's start off with some reflections from outside people. So people who've come to St Clare's as visitors. In this case, this was a comment made in a recent college inspection. And what I really like about this quotation is the focus on self-esteem and confidence, because we're really privileged to be working with an older stage of childhood. We only really have what we in the UK would call sixth form students and our pre-IBs, and that 15 to 19 age bracket is such a pleasure to work with as a leadership team and as a pastoral team, because these are young people on the cusp of adulthood. And what we really want to ensure is that when they leave us, they have that grounded confidence, they have that self-esteem, and they can engage in all the opportunities after St Clare's with just as much confidence and vigour as they do whilst they're with us. So that's why we chose this quotation to lead with, really, because it captures a little bit about that ethos. All of this takes place in this campus that a couple of my colleagues and students have alluded to as being very beautiful, and it is. It's a huge privilege environmentally to be in North Oxford. That really contributes to the work of the pastoral and wellbeing kind of side of the college, because people thrive in beautiful environments. You know, we're surrounded by gardens. We're in a very lovely part of North Oxford, which has big Victorian buildings that we are lucky to call our boarding houses, as well as our learning spaces. So we have a combination of types of building, if you like. You can see some of these images here. New buildings, you know, for things like science and maths, the library, which is a kind of jewel in the crown of the campus and quite familiar to some of you from our website and other places. And then also these lovely converted Victorian boarding houses. And what that means for our boarders and all our learners is that it feels like a neighbourhood. We're not in a couple of really big buildings, kind of blocky school type buildings. We're in a part of the city, and our boarders benefit from the fact that the boarding communities by necessity are quite small because of the buildings that we inhabit. And that means that when they're visiting other friends, they're going down the road or round the corner and kind of knocking on the door and seeing their house parent and having that interaction as well. And that's, you know, it works really beautifully for this age group. As I said, all about independence and confidence building. And also we are on the doorstep of the city centre of Oxford itself, which again is a city very much aimed at young people, at students, loads of opportunity, loads of things to become involved with. And again, all about that safe transition from childhood through to young adulthood, happening in a really desirable environment. So I've mentioned about how we think that academic success comes from pastoral effectiveness. And my favourite metaphor for this is this image you can see now on your screen about which is a tree. And we probably all are aware that half of a tree is visible at any given time. The bits that we see are the branches, the leaves, and actually it's the root system which takes up the other half of the tree, which is invisible. And this is a really helpful metaphor for pastoral care, because what we're looking for is creating an environment where students feel grounded, and that sense of integrity and rootedness. And when you get that right, when you have that sense of self, what you see is students who feel able to flourish, much like the tree symbol, to show their colours, to extend themselves, to reach for different opportunities, and to be visible in a very confident and settled way as they go through their time with us at St. Clare's. The other reason I like this metaphor, and you can see the little animation now, is that life is full of challenges, and some of those are most unexpected and some of them are very difficult to deal with, right? So we are in this blessed position to have many young people with us at any given time. And of course, that means that sometimes they need extra looking after. They might have health concerns, they might have things happening at home which are difficult, they may have suffered bereavement or loss, or, you know, there are innumerable things that can happen in a young person's life. And what we want is, as I said, if you have that sense of groundedness and security, when life throws challenge at you, you will feel buffeted by it, you'll feel impacted, but you won't allow it to knock you over entirely. And that's what we're aiming for. So we want our students to see that they are understood, that they're listened to, that they're nurtured in this place with us, and that we will be with them, you know, side by side when these challenges come along. So the team responsible for doing that and making sure that they do feel that sense of grounded security are represented on the screen at the moment. So on the left-hand side, broadly speaking, you have the kind of proactive side of pastoral care. This is what every student will experience. So everybody will have a personal tutor who's very invested in their progress, who knows them well, sees them on a weekly basis, both as a group and individual sessions, and is there to guide the academic and also the pastoral journey of each individual student while they're here. They are generally a teacher of as in a subject teacher of that student, so that they get to see them at different points throughout the week, and they share academic interests as well. But broadly speaking, they're the triangle. If you imagine the relationship between the college and the family as having a third point of the triangle, which is the child, it's the tutor who's making sure all those points are speaking to each other and managing all that communication between home and making sure that student is being represented and looked after really well. All of our boarders also have a house parent. We deliberately don't have house parents who are also academic staff. Instead, we have a model which is more like coming home at the end of the day and really feeling quite a strong transition from the kind of academic expectations of the working day and then the more relaxed, more homely environment and atmosphere that you would get if you were coming home to your family at the end of the day. So more informal, but again, very much a kind of warm, supportive, nurturing environment. So those colleagues are there for all students. On the right-hand side, I suppose you'd say this is slightly more reactive, but again, available to all. So we have a fantastic college nurse called Alessia, who is here in the working week and provides healthcare both herself and also by liaising with all sorts of outside agencies. We're in a really good position in North Oxford for doctor surgeries, hospitals, other forms of clinic and support. So we're never short of advice and signposting, as well as having Alessia herself to look after the students day to day. And then Stephanie, our lovely counsellor, who is again available to all students. They can self-refer, they can be referred by maybe their tutor or even their family in some cases for that bit of extra support. It could be a one-off thing, it could be over a period of weeks. We're very non-prescriptive. All we really say is that Stephanie's well-versed in support, particularly aimed at young people, even more particularly aimed at where counselling kind of overlaps with things like ADHD and learning support. She has lots of experience in, and she is, as I say, kind of available, not a long waiting list, not lots of hoops to jump through, which cannot be said of lots of school counselling services, which tend to be very, very stretched. So we are very blessed to have those two colleagues as well. So that's broadly speaking how we deliver this pastoral excellence that I'm really proud to kind of oversee and champion. I'm going to ask Malu just to step in from her own perspective as our student advocate to say how that's felt from her perspective, how her PT and boarding experience has worked out for her. So Malu, back to you.
Hi again. So for me, one of the main things I think of when I think about St. Clare's is the amount of support we get from everybody around us. And I think that's really reflected in the pastoral care. For example, we have our personal tutors who we can speak to for any issues we have academically, but also you see them so often. They're a friendly face, and all the teachers are friendly faces and people you can talk to if you're upset about anything, which I think is a really special relationship to have. You feel very comfortable to ask for help. Equally with the house parents, it's slightly different because you see them in a different setting. However, again, there's that overwhelming support and care for every student. And I think in our boarding houses, we have a community of people that we always see every evening. We have boarding meetings where we get to know them. And it's really nice to have somebody to talk to about your day, go for a chat if you need to at any given time. And I think that's really special about St. Clare's. Equally, we talk to all of our teachers on a first name basis, which I think is a key indicator of how comfortable we feel talking to them about any issues we have, raising questions. And I think that's really important in such an intense curriculum, in such an intense school system, to have that kind of shoulder to lean on. And I think I speak for a lot of, or everybody in my year group and in the school, when we say that we feel really supported and really comfortable in this environment.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Malu. And again, I realise this is a whistle-stop tour. There will be time for questions at the end if anything I've said is not clear or you'd like to understand any more about it. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Kevin, who's going to speak to you about the activities programme.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the activities programme. Again, it's a very quick overview. So if we go on to the next slide, Suzanne. So the background to our extracurricular program, it's a CAS program. That's what the IB want us to call it. And the IB gives us really two firm foundations. We build it on, first of all, the learner profile, which David alluded to earlier on. It's there on the top right-hand side. So through all our activities, whether they are creative or active or volunteering in the community, we are hoping to develop these attributes: being reflective, principled, open-minded, a good communicator. So that's a really strong foundation to build a program, to build a set of different activities that our students can engage in. The second building block, which is very, very useful from the IB as well, is that it divides the different activities into three different strands. So there's the creative strand. So we're thinking there about theatre, music, debating, art. All those kind of ideas will fall into the creativity strand. The activity strand is all the sports, the individual sports, whether it's a gym membership, or the team sports, whether it's volleyball or football. And finally, the service, which is volunteering in the community. And what I really like about the service aspect is that it has to benefit both parties. It has to benefit the student. So it's all about choosing something that's meaningful to the student themselves, but also to the community that they live in. And when we talk about community at St. Clare's, we talk about the school community. So there's a lot of students involved in student volunteering opportunities like student council, events organizing, and so on. But we also talk about the Oxford community. So we have students working in local charity shops. We have students going and visiting the elderly in residential homes. This year we have students working with Oxford refugee support groups. So we like to think broadly about our students in the school community, but also in the local community. So that's our two building blocks. So how does that look like on a program? So what we do at St. Clare's is we put together a CAS program with all over the 50 different activities every week. And that spreads out over the day from Monday right through until Sunday. So this is an example on a Thursday. There was an early start for the Medic Society. They were having an 8:15 start in the morning before the school day. There was activities on during the school day at break time. And this helps our day students as well, because we're very conscious that our day students will sometimes have travel and commitments that they need to get back to at the end of the academic day. So we have CAS activities going on at various points during the day. The majority do happen in the end of the academic day, which is after 4:15, and they run right through to late evening. Okay, so it's a spread. It's a spread of different activities that our students can choose from. And if we go to the next slide, so what does a student have to do? So we've got a program, we've got the building blocks explained to you. So a student then will basically select 1C, 1A, and 1S, something creative, something active, and something service each term. And what they will do within that then is that they will set individual goals for what they're doing in creativity, in activity, and service. They will then attend and participate over the course of a term, working towards completing those goals. And then they will reflect upon what they've done towards the end of the term. We talk about reflecting when a significant moment has happened on your CAS journey, but they'll keep all this in a CAS portfolio. So they have to keep a sort of diary of what they're doing, how they're getting on, and then reflecting on that at the end of a term. I've got Tamerlan, who's going to chat to you a little bit about his CAS choices. Tamerlan, could you maybe explain what you're doing this term, perhaps, why you're doing it, and maybe some of the opportunities you've had to travel with CAS? I know you're a member of the football club, so off you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tamerlan, and I'm IB2 student. I'm from Kazakhstan, and I was here since pre-IB. So throughout the 3 years of being at St. Clare's, I've managed to experience a wide range of different CAS activities. And as Kevin already mentioned before, it stands for creativity, activity, and service. And each student must select at least one experience from each CAS section. So when I was in my first year of IB diploma, specifically the first term, I was so passionate and full of energy, and that's why I decided to do 7 different CAS experiences. However, it is still important to remain the balance between your academic life and the life beyond it. So for my activity, I decided to choose football, simply because I was so passionate and motivated about this type of sport. And we have football 3 times per week, and specifically on Friday we have very unique session in which both boys and girls football team are participating in the training, which allows us to build a strong team spirit as well as very strong relationships between our teammates. And a unique feature is the fact that St. Clare's offers trips as the part of your CAS experience. Recently, both of our boys and girls football team went to participate in the international football competition, which was held in Verona, Italy. And that was an outstanding experience for us. And as a result of that, we managed to build a very strong team spirit and enhance a variety of distinct skills. And as a result of our passion and perseverance, we managed to secure the first place in that competition, representing St. Clare's internationally. which was an absolutely astonishing thing for us. However, another feature about the St. Clare's is the fact that it allows students to review their leadership and creativity skills, and some of our class experiences are being led by students. For example, I'm leading my own class experience, which is called Events Committee, since I'm part of the Student Council. So this CAS is responsible for informing students about the events that are happening in Oxford, but also organizing events within the school environment, which allows students, first of all, to gain their social and organizational skills, therefore to build very strong leadership skills. For my service, first of all, service refers to volunteering experience and rising awareness towards society and environment. And I managed to do a wide range of distinct service experiences at St. Clare's. For example, I had an opportunity to work in the charity shop, which is located in Summertown. It's just 5 minutes away from St. Clare's. But besides that, I was also part of Share and Care Club, which is a volunteering club that is responsible for providing an essential help for homeless people in Oxford. And we had weekly outings in which we try to help to homeless people that we saw in the Oxford City Centre. And that incredible cast experience allowed us to build a sort of wide range of distinct skills and therefore gain your volunteering portfolio, which is quite useful for your university application. So in general, I'm very delightful about the fact that St. Clare's offers various CAS activities that allow students to enhance a variety of distinct skills.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tamerlan. Fantastic. I'm going to hand you back now to David, and he's going to talk you through our careers support.
Thank you, Kevin. So the last thing we're going to talk to you about is our careers and universities program. So after this, there is a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, I encourage you to put them in the chat, and we'll get to those very shortly. Our head of careers would normally do this. Unfortunately, she's off sick at the moment. So I will talk you through our careers and university program, but we have 3 dedicated university and careers counsellors. They don't teach, they don't have any other role apart from that. So we are very lucky and very different, I think, in the sense that we have such support for our students in terms of their future plans. And we've left this till the end because obviously this is about what happens after you've left St. Clare's. But actually, for the students, the experience of being supported with that starts from the moment they arrive. We have a really extensive program. In terms of the IB, where does it take you? Well, it can take you anywhere. As you can see on there, it's accepted in around 150 countries. It's highly respected by even the most competitive universities. And anything is possible beyond as long as you choose the right subject combination. So that's our university counsellors can advise even before you arrive at St. Clare's if you have questions about what subjects you might need to choose to go on certain pathways in the future. As you can see there, we have students going on to study a wide range of different subject areas. Business and finance is perhaps the most common pathway, but you can see a huge range there in terms of where our students are going, and that sort of reflects the breadth of the IB program and how many different subject combinations students can choose. So in terms of how we support the students, we have a program that's developed around those principles. You can see it across the top there. We have a combination of lessons taught by our university and careers counsellors and outside speakers. We have regular outside speakers. Pretty much every week we'll have outside speakers from universities coming in to talk to students. We have a higher education fair, which is a really impressive event with over 100 different institutions represented usually. And we have other workshops and events throughout the year as well. And all of that is supported by one-to-one guidance. Our counsellors, as I said, that's their full-time job, so they are there available for one-to-one guidance for students as well. Our students go all over the world. We are international in our student cohort, but also in terms of their destinations. You can see there on the screen, and here's some examples of some of those destinations. We have students going to, as I said, the most competitive universities, but our program is very much designed on getting to know the students well as individuals so that they can be supported and guided to what we would call a best fit university. As well as these really well-known names you can see on the screen, we have students going to other really excellent universities that are really good fit for them. So what you see now is a sort of pathway that students take. So in IB1, it starts with sort of big questions about what careers are, students developing a self-aware, looking at themselves, reflecting on their skills and their interests. And then throughout the year, a series of opportunities in terms of workshops, classes, one-to-one sessions, and also the higher education fair is a big highlight. And as you can see there, about 60 different external speakers across the year. And then if students towards the end of that year are deciding more specifically their pathways, so some, for example, might decide they want to apply to Oxbridge or to the USA or for medicine, we have some specialist support and specialist classes for those particular groups of students. And then that continues on IB2, where all of our students on the call now, they're all IB2 students, so they're currently in the thick of this in terms of finalizing their applications, getting support on those applications, their letters and CVs and so on and so forth. So it intensifies in terms of the one-to-one support that's in place in IB2. And I'm just going to invite one of our students on the call, Zoe, just to talk a little bit about her journey since she arrived at St. Clare's up until this point, where she's now doing these applications.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe. I am from Germany. And like David just told us, I am in IB2. And my journey with careers has been very interesting. And I think it's a good example to show like how the careers really is here to support us and help us. So for instance, me, when I first came to St. Clare's, I initially wanted to study medicine. And also chose like my subjects pretty much according to that. But I also had psychology higher level. And during that, I really enjoyed the subject. And I thought, okay, maybe I actually don't want to do medicine. Maybe I want to do psychology. But I was really confused. Like, is it even possible to just like change my opinion like that? And where do I even want to study? And all of these questions. But having a careers counselor, which in my case was Emily at the time, was really helpful just to have an idea and just for someone to show me or demonstrate me that, yeah, I have these options and what the options are, and kind of take away that fear or like unknownness, like, okay, what's going on, and guide me through the application process and everything. And by now I'm also in the Oxbridge group. I'm actually waiting right now to see if I'm gonna get an email from Oxford. But yeah, and also in the Oxbridge group, it was, which we did with Sophie, it was really helpful. We did the preparations for the admissions tests, for our personal statements. We had specialist training. Now we're also preparing in the Oxbridge group in case we get these interviews to prepare and kind of rehearse some questions. So yeah, comparing where I started, wanting to do medicine, and now I'm applying for psychology in Oxford, it's really, I think I wouldn't have gotten up until this point, I think, without the careers team. And yeah, I think it's just something that we can be very grateful for in this school, and I appreciate very much. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Zoe, for talking us through that. Okay, I'm going to hand back now to Sarah and Isabel, who will host the Q&A.
So obviously, if anyone has any questions after listening to everyone today, please do put them in the chat and we can answer them. If not, I can perhaps direct a couple of sort of typical questions that you might be thinking to some of the panelists here today. One question I think is always perhaps quite common is sort of homesickness and how people deal with coming to a boarding school if they've never come to a boarding school before. So I don't know, one of our students, you can talk about like your experience coming to St. Clair's as a boarder, if you'd boarded before, if you were homesick, and how you kind of adapted to boarding life.
Of course. So with homesickness, when I first came in, like I started in IB1 in St. Clair's, and when I first came, it was a bit more difficult because um, I've always lived at home and I have a lot of siblings and I'm also surrounded by my family. So it was definitely a huge change. But I have to say, because you are in a boarding school, you are surrounded by people all the time, like whether that be roommates or in the dining hall, in your classes, during class, during whatever. So there never was like this feeling of being lonely. And because we were all kind of like in a similar situation and we were all being, apart from our families, it was okay, this is already one thing that connects all of us. So I think this made it much easier to get over this homesickness and kind of build our own new little family, I would say so. And by now, I don't know anyone who is struggling in any way with homesickness. It's more even being excited in the break to come back and see all of your friends and all of the people. So while it may be hard in the beginning, it's for sure something you can get over easily just because of the community we have here.
That's really useful, thank you. Could I perhaps ask Marley, like how would you describe like a typical day at St. Clair's, like starting from like the very morning up to the evening?
Okay, so a typical day at St. Clair's, you'll have lessons from 9 until 4, with a lunch break in between. And then normally for me, I'll have probably a football class from 4:30 until 6:30, which is a really fun way of kind of releasing stress and getting energy out after like having worked a long day. Then we'll all go for dinner in the dining hall, which is really great. You kind of speak to everybody, everybody's talking, and then you can take some time to study or to rest, but probably to study after dinner. And then there are also examples of classes you can do later in the evening. For example, cooking class, which was on last year, which runs from like 8 to 9, I think. And then we'll come back into the boarding houses, we'll settle in, you'll talk to your roommates and finish up any work. And then your house parent will come for curfew, you can speak to them and then sleep.
Perfect, thank you. I can see a couple of questions in the question answer section. So someone has asked if we have swimming as a sport, and if so, do we have any other sports that are practiced in the water? I don't know if Kevin, you can perhaps just quickly answer.
Sure, I was typing and answering at the same time. So all our students are members of a local gym, and there is an indoor and an outdoor pool available to them. But we do not have a swim team in the school. But we have had students in the past who have sourced with their parents, obviously before they arrive at the school, a local swim club in Oxford. And they've done some background work on what level the swim club offers and what are their pathways and membership. And then when they arrive at the school, of course, we can support you with the house parents' assistance as well in terms of advice on getting to the club and getting that balance, as Tamerlan referred to, between academic and your passions and interests. But we can support that. But in terms of a swim club, no, we don't.
There's a question about what IB subjects, I suppose, would someone perhaps take if they wanted to study law at university? I know it's perhaps quite a difficult question, but I don't know if Dave, you might be able to at least give a little insight.
Sure. Yeah, usually we would recommend a higher level subject that has a fairly high reading and writing content. So history is often a subject recommended at higher level, or potentially English literature, or potentially both. But usually universities will want to see a subject that involves a significant amount of reading and a significant amount of extended writing. So often it would be history or English literature, or one of those subjects.
Thank you. I can see there's a question about scheduling a meeting to visit the school and deadlines. We are very happy for anyone who would like to come visit the school. I think it's really wonderful to be able to actually see the campus, get a feel of the environment, and sort of see what it's like, even get the chance to speak to a student.
I'll just answer the question around homework instead of typing it. So essentially the teachers do set homework with advance notice so that this, we don't have a set time each day for homework to be done. The students have to fit their homework in and around their busy schedule, and teachers will set that with advance notice so that people can meet the deadlines. Students can also meet the deadlines of the homework. And yeah, I mean, you would expect to have a couple of hours homework a day. It depends on the time of year slightly, but every subject is setting homework regularly with sufficient notice. Sorry, I'm losing my voice slightly.
There's a question about what percentage of students finished the DP with a score under 30. So last year, the world average was 30.5, and 93% of our students were above that. So that leaves about 7%, therefore, that were around 30 or under. Okay, so very few, but we do have students of all abilities. We are selective more on motivation rather than academic attainment, and therefore we're very proud of our results, and we had 100% pass. So yeah, so it was about 7% last year who are under 30.
Now, I would add to that, at the top end, in virtually every year, we've had students achieve 45 out of 45. So what we're doing is we're teaching in small class sizes, we're providing lots of support, and we're ensuring that the students get the highest result that they can. So we're more interested in student progress rather than just being hyper selective at the outset. Okay, and anybody who's able, we will be able to get them to the highest grade that they can achieve. Can I answer the question about scholarships? So there's a question here: which qualities will help to be outstanding and get a scholarship? Part of what we're looking for is academic, of course, but we're also looking for your all-round contribution and your levels of motivation and how much you're going to contribute to the school as a whole. So you get, when you apply for the scholarship, you get both an academic interview and a general interview, which looks at your wider contribution and your goals. So we'll assess it in a holistic way, but obviously the academic is a component of that. We've got a question about specifying the scholarship possibilities. I mean, essentially we have a day scholarship round and a boarding scholarship round through the year. I don't know if Sarah, if you're able to talk a bit more about that, because you have all the deadlines and things in your head, which I don't.
Yeah, of course. So the boarding scholarship process is still open because the deadline for that is the end of January, and then after that we shortlist students, and the scholarship assessment day is in March. So there's still time to apply if anyone is interested in doing so.
I can answer a couple of other questions there. There's a question about, do we cooperate with university laboratory in biology or chemistry? There have been informal collaborations. So our chemistry biology teachers have taken students down to visit the laboratories to see them in action at the university. And we also have an intern actually who's going to be with us next year, who's a PhD student in chemistry and biology at the university, who's going to come and help mentor some of our students. So we do have some connections that we explore with the university and with science in particular. And we also, to answer the question, yes, we do participate in world science and world mathematics Olympiads.
I'll answer the question about the relationship to the Oxford University. So yeah, just because Oxford University is down the road, please do not assume that this is like an automatic place where you can come and go directly to Oxford. Oxford is a separate organisation entirely from St Clare's. But obviously our students apply to Oxford, and we have students who go to Oxford. We also cooperate very well with Oxford, and there's lots of opportunities of going to lectures and working with Oxford University students, as happened in the past. And we have speakers who come in and talk at the school, but we are separate institutions. So do please do not assume that just because it's down the road there is an automatic connection.
There's a question about when do we communicate with students as to when they're admitted? So normally with the admissions process, once we've assessed your reports, you've taken our English and maths test, and you've had your interview, once you've completed those steps, we're usually able to tell you at the very end, either the same day as your interview, or if not, the following day.
Okay. Right, we're running over time. We're about 7 minutes over when we said we would finish, and I see that the questions in the list have all been finished. If you do have any further questions, please send them through to admissions@stclares.ac.uk, and Sarah or one of her colleagues will answer those. I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you very much for coming. I really hope that we have covered everything that you wanted to know about, and that you felt you've had the opportunity to ask the questions and get those questions answered. As I said, we will send out follow-up emails if you've attended today. So if you have anything else, do please connect that with Sarah. Thank you very much for coming. Have a very good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.